There have been more than a few times where I've been stalked or wolf whistled at before. Though I live in a really safe country like Singapore. However, this one incident sticks out like a sore thumb, mainly because we were saved just at the right time. My childhood friend and I wanted to spend a day at this nice dam which was located in the midst of a forested area. It's a nice place for couples to smoozy and families to hang out. However, you can only get there by private transport. We were probably 18 then. We got down at the bus stop and decided to walk by foot there. This dam was pretty near an airport which had ceased operation. It was still being used though. We took pretty rad and close-up pics of planes. So anyways, we were walking and walking deeper inside, and we got lost. We were at this industrial area and there was no human traffic at all. There were few cars and taxis driving past, and the drivers honked at us as if to warn us that we shouldn't be here. We would have walked for about 2 hours and we wanted to give up. That was when we first saw this animal van driving past us. The driver slowed down and said something. I dismissed him as creepy and held onto my friend tight. About 15 minutes later, when I was trying to take a close-up picture of a plane, the guy stopped his van, rolled down the windows, and asked us what we were doing out alone. We gave him blunt replies to shoo him away. He said he could give us a lift, but we were really wary because the pickup van looked seedy. My friend wanted to get in, but I stopped her. He went off on his way. My friend was on the phone with her boyfriend, and he got super pissed because apparently prostitutes kind of frequent that area, and the place is known for illegal stuff as such. We were trembling at this point and trying to hail a cab, though we didn't have cash on us. About 5 minutes later, when we were walking past the dilapidated lane, we came across a huge group of construction workers. They were on the other side of the lane, and they were leering at us, openly. They were wolf whistling, and all of them went quiet. They stood there watching us like a hawk, watching our every move. There were about 11 of them, eager, and they were speaking in dialect to each other, plotting something. Just then, the animal van screeched and halted in front of us. The same man asked for us to get in, and he said he could drop us off wherever we wanted, and we were really far away from the dam. We didn't argue, and we got in. True enough, he dropped us nearby our houses, but not without chiding us. Well, we deserved it, I guess. And thank goodness, he was there in a nick of time, for God knows. Probably one of the things I look back on and I want to bang my head and shout at myself for. So, about 5 or 6 years ago, I gave someone a ride. It was late, like super late, perhaps 2 or 3 a.m. I had just finished my gym workout. At the time, I really liked going to the gym when it was dead, since I could use all the machines I needed without waiting. I was walking back to my car when a guy approached me. He looked normal. He explained that his car broke down and he was waiting on a tow truck. He asked me if I could give him a ride to the gas station that was about 3 miles away. I said yes. So, I unlocked my car and motioned for him to get in. He directs me where to go. I make conversation while I'm driving, but get what I think at the time is mildly bizarre responses back. He makes a point to say his name several times. Admittedly, I've never been good with remembering names, even in passing. And I give him my first name in return. After that, he starts saying his full name, which I think is just weird. I brush it off and keep driving, as the road we were on was one of the back roads without a lot of lights, so I'm quite focused. Don't want to hit a deer or a cat. He asked me how I'm feeling and questioned about how I like the city. I discuss my workout in response to that and tell him what I like about the city. When I start telling him I like viewing the skyline at this time of night, he quickly agrees and says it's nice how people aren't really around at this time. I agree with them. As I said, I love being able to use a gym freely. The conversation tapers at this point, but I do notice that he's turned and looking at me still. He makes a point to say his name again, as if he hadn't previously introduced himself. Now, I pull into the gas station and he kind of deflates, gets out, and roughly says thanks. That was it. Looking back though, several red flags. The gym I went to at the time was in a pretty isolated part, but if you were to break down, it was a gas station at the bottom of the hill it was on. You could see it from the gym and it was 24 hours like the gym. Surely, if you need to wait somewhere else, you'd do it there, not outside of a gym you didn't go to. The gas station has seating you can use. That brings up another thing. He'd made a point to say what kind of car he was driving. It was an expensive car, and if you were waiting on a tow, you'd have the option to wait with the car and drive with the tow driver. Also, I really wasn't paying attention at the time, but he directed me towards a road without any lights. There was another way to get to the gas station he wanted to go to, which was the main road, but he directed me elsewhere. Then, the way he kept saying his name, like I should recognize either part of it, which I truthfully did not. Something about that never sat right with me. I can't even remember his name now, but that encounter seared into my brain. Then, when he got out of the car, he didn't even head inside the gas station, just stood outside, made no attempt to use a phone or anything. I'm older and not trusting of people, but man, for anyone who wants to know, this was in central Pennsylvania. I refrained from using this at the beginning, but I'm a woman. I was about 20 or 21 when this took place. I know it was a stupid choice on my part, but I just wanted to help at the time. Let's set the scene. I live in a rural area and drove 30 minutes to work. One night after work, I stopped at a gas station that's halfway to my house. It's easily 10 degrees Fahrenheit and it's freezing raining. The man in the front of me was wearing our local college sweatshirt, gray joggers, my height, 5'5". He was white with blonde hair, and he bought a 6-pack of Miller Lite. When he left and I was pumping my gas, I saw him walking towards the main roads. There were no housing around this middle of nowhere gas station. I felt bad if he was walking miles back to where college was, which was another 15 minutes via car away. I finished pumping my gas, and I passed him walking on the highway. I turned around and asked him if he needed a ride. It was 11 p.m., and I was very anxious, as I've never picked up a hitchhiker before, and I'm a female 22 that doesn't carry protection, so I'm not really looking at this man when I ask him. He thanked me and got in. I'm still nervous, so I keep my eyes on the road and nothing but the road. He talks to me about my car, and he had an Impala too. It was a good conversation. I became more comfortable. He had me pull into a motel he was staying at, and he said it was for work. When he gets out of my car, I felt comfortable enough to look at him as the lights in the car turn on. I saw no one like who I saw in the store. The man in my car was darker toned, tall, with black hair. The weird thing of it, though, he He was wearing the same sweatshirt, gray joggers, and had a 6-pack of Miller Lite. I literally froze once I saw him. I was so confused. It was like a glitch in the Matrix. I can remember to this day so clearly, and I have no explanation for it. Did I imagine the blonde hair? Was it a coincidence? Where did the other guy go? When I was 17, I was walking home from a friend's house in winter. It was about minus 20 degrees out, and I wasn't dressed properly for the weather, mainly because I got a ride to my friend's house and the ride back somehow fell through. It was around 9 p.m., dark, freezing cold. I had about 10 to 12 blocks to walk, so there I went, walking down the cold, icy street, freezing my butt off, and the idea occurs to me to hitch a ride. I know. Never take a ride from a stranger. It was echoing through my head. I was so cold. So I put my fears aside and put my thumb out at the first car that passed. Ironically, the first car I hitched stopped. It was a blue Ford Taurus. The dude that stopped looked like he was about 25 and had a military cut. We had a military base nearby, so lots of military folks lived in my area. He asked me where I was going and smiled. I told him, and he said, "Get in. It's not that far." So I got in the car. The heater was blasting. Glad to be out of the cold, I was relieved to have a ride home. This dude went half a block, took a right at the next intersection, and an immediate, quick left turn into an empty, wooded lot. I looked at the dude and said, "What are you doing?" And before "doing" was out of my mouth, the dude had the car in park, quick as hell, like he practiced this before. He was over the middle console and was straddling me. He had my seat reclined and he punched me in the face, hard in the next split second. His body was coiled tight with tension. He was holding my arms and wrists very hard. I was scared. But after the punch, I told myself, okay, this isn't happening. You're not going to be touched. Now don't get murdered. I told the guy he could have anything he wanted. He could have it. Just, he didn't have to hurt me for it. I felt him relax, a lot. As soon as he relaxed, I headbutted him, ripped my hands free, and punched, kicked, bit, screamed, and basically went insane. He opened the passenger door and rolled me out from under him. Before I was even up and out of the snow, he was reversing and getting away, which he did. I would never hitch a ride again. It was in the late 80s, early 90s. I was hitching from Northern California to Oregon. I was just south of the Crescent City. Literally like right on the outskirts. But if you are familiar with the area, you understand it's like the middle of nowhere and then the town. So, I'm there with my dog, and this man pulls up in an RV. He comes to the back door of the RV and opens it. Instead of me just talking to him as he's sitting in the cab and tell him where I'm going, I found this to be odd and felt uneasy. The guy just opens the side door, looks at me sternly and says, "Get in." I was horrified. I turned to look at my dog, as I was surprised. She wasn't barking at him or anything. She always barked at anyone whom she perceived had the potential to be a threat. When I looked at her, she was shaking violently, as if in complete terror. Super weird and creepy, because my dog was afraid of no one. I looked back at the man, said, "No, thank you." And my dog and I walked off quickly to town. If the town hadn't been literally right there, I likely would not be sharing the story with you today. I am sure of it.